Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game. So, taking out a fun and exciting episode for you guys today because OutRIGGER is back online via Flycast and DCNet. And honestly, when I say Dreamcast and Sega can't stop winning in 2025 when it comes to emulation, quality of life improvements, and online support, I 100% mean it because this is the third video I've done on DCNet bringing more games back to life for the Dreamcast, and this might be my favorite yet. If OutRIGGER doesn't sound familiar, that's because it definitely is a little bit of, in my opinion, a hidden gem on the Dreamcast, basically a first and third person arena shooter that you could play online back in the day. But of course, now those servers are definitely long gone, and while there are a few ways to connect real Dreamcast together, DCNet just basically keeps this dream alive, pun very much intended, so that everyone can get back online and play some OutRIGGER, and that is always amazing. Before I get too far involved though, do me a huge favor down below, hit like and subscribe and ring that notification bell, definitely helps us out. And if you feel so inclined and want to support the channel, we got a Patreon link down below as well. But the best thing about something like Flycast and DCNet is it allows you to actually go back online and play a lot of the Dreamcast online features without having to really struggle, because while there have been ways in the past to connect Dreamcast together, I've always found them to be a little bit fiddly with a lot of port forwarding and other issues when it just comes to networking. It was one of those things, you could get it to work, but you might spend as much time actually getting a connection resolved as you would playing the game, and that's always something that bummed me out, because all you really want to do is jump into a game, have some fun, and then move on with your day like you do today. But back in the 90s, whether you were on a PC or a Dreamcast, getting these games to actually work online was always a little bit of a chore, and in some ways that was part of the charm of online gaming back in the 90s. You definitely had to fight for your fun, but in 2025 it's not something that we really want to deal with. We want to sit down, we want to play a game, we want to have fun online, then we just want to get back up, and that's exactly what DCNet has brought back to the table. And with OutRIGGER now being part of it, it is a huge addition in my opinion, because this thing just absolutely is one of those games, if you've never played it before, you're 100% missing out. Leave me a comment down below and you tell me, OutRIGGER, did you play it back in the day? Have you played it recently? Or have you never actually taken a look at this game? Because trust me, the online component really is where this game comes to shine. Honestly, if you just try to play it as a single player experience, there really isn't much meat on the bone there in my opinion. But this is an online match recorded by the moderator of my Discord, the Cool Pup. He got this all wired up on DCNet, and honestly, it takes only about a couple seconds to actually get this thing functional. He took third place, couldn't get first for the service. I'll have to have a conversation with him about that after this. All jokes aside, definitely appreciate his help, and I'm sure I would have been in last place. And the fun thing about this game is there's so many different arenas to compete in. It's got that classic Sega charm because this was developed by Sega. It did come out on the Naomi arcade board as well, and it would use a trackball there on an actual arcade cabinet. But of course on Dreamcast you're going to be on a controller, but the nice thing is you can set Flycast up with whatever controls you want to make it easier to play. With all of the graphical improvements as well, it's just going to end up being, in my opinion, the de facto best way to play this game. And that really is the amazing thing about Flycast lately. We're not just getting improvements to overall Dreamcast emulation with better graphics and better performance, it's stringing together all of the online services for basically all of the games that worked online back in the day, so that it really does feel like the Dreamcast is back online and alive in 2025. And I know the overall tagline was it's thinking 9999, well it's thinking again in 2025, and that is just outstanding to see, because Dreamcast really did emphasize the online play for certain games, and when those services went offline, they basically became hollow experiences as far as the games were concerned. But emulation and preservation go hand in hand. It's not enough for something like OutRIGGER just to be able to run and Flycast. With DCNet enabling all that online support, the game has an audience again, and trust me, this is one you definitely want to play, whether you're against 3 or 4 different opponents that you've never met before, or if you kind of do this with friends. It is absolutely an amazing time, and you will see it transitions between third person and first person, so it kind of feels like a very bright, cheery Quake arena, something made by Sega, and it definitely has that Sega look, and I would say some of the better graphics I think Sega put on the Dreamcast in my opinion. Now of course it is being enhanced by Flycast, and that is one of the nice things, but the frame rate here is rock solid stable, as is the internet connection, and that's something you definitely need if you want to play OutRIGGER online in 2025, because if there's any latency in the controls or any sort of lag in the internet connection, the game would just become unplayable. But you'll see here from all of the footage, it is just absolutely smooth and amazing, and it kind of reminds me, at least visually, of Spike Out or even Slash Out from Sega, that same era of hardware that just has a really fun look to it. And the best part is it's a Sega game, so you know it's going to have an amazing Sega soundtrack as well. So go ahead and listen for 45 seconds, but I'll come back and tell you more about DCNet and why if you're not playing it you definitely should. But enjoy the music because it is good. Definitely has some strong spy vibes there, and if I had to compare it to anything else, it would probably be the music from Confidential Mission, also on the Dreamcast and Naomi. If that's one you've never played before, it works great on Flycast, whether you're using a gun for IR, send-in, or just a keyboard and mouse. Now, that has nothing to do with DCNet, but it just kind of reminds me of that, and I'm always here to try to recommend other Dreamcast games for people to play. But I would be really curious to hear if anyone played OutRIGGER back in the day. I remember picking this game up used my local EV games for like 10 bucks, and I definitely had a decent amount of fun online, but it was very close to the end of the Dreamcast library, so I remember this thing maybe playing it once or twice and then it not actually being able to be played anymore. So it is a game that I definitely want to spend more time with as well, but I do love the graphics here, and I just kind of love the chaotic nature. This entire arena shootout with all of these different power-ups to pick up, the fact that you can go third person or first person, it really just feels like Quake 3 Arena, except made by Sega in all of the best ways. But again, this game just doesn't really work if it's not online. It's so much fun to be able to play this with friends, and just from a preservation standpoint, that's how important stuff like Flycast and DCNet are, because there are just those games on Dreamcast where of course you can play against the CPU, but it's not really all that much fun compared to something like going online, whether it's Choo Choo Rocket, OutRIGGER, or any of the other games that have that online component. Playing against real humans just 100% makes for a better experience, and I love that we're seeing all of this in 2025. The idea that you can just open up Flycast, set up DCNet, find a match for OutRIGGER, and just sit down like it is 1999. It's like a 26-year time warp compared to when this game would have been prevalent versus when we are today. But the fact is, people want to keep the dream alive, pun incredibly intended, when it comes to these games, and I absolutely love seeing that. Now, from a gameplay perspective, OutRIGGER is just a straight up ton of fun. There's so many different power-ups you can get, so many different weapons to play around with, and a ton of different arenas where you can kind of explore and find the good vantage points so you can outperform your opponents. And honestly, third-person and first-person shooters really aren't a genre that Sega played around with much in the Dreamcast era. Sure, they had the first-person rail shooters, the stuff like Confidential Mission and like, but otherwise this really isn't something that Sega did that much of, and I think they should have absolutely made more games in this style because it 100% works. You'll see here as we look at that painting, a lot of the textures in this game, some of the best I ever saw on Dreamcast back in the day. And with all of the graphical enhancements of Flycast, it just looks that much better. Combine that with the fact that it's really easy to get online and you have your controller of choice, whether it's a keyboard, mouse, or otherwise, and it just ends up being the best way to play this game, even better than if you owned a Dreamcast and you went online with it in 2025. One more soundtrack sample because again, the music is 10 out of 10 here, and I'll be right back. Just love the music in this game along with the sound effects, and honestly it's just one of those hidden gems on Dreamcast that I always tell people they should play when I'm chatting about my favorite Dreamcast games. And the best part is Dreamcast Naomi Emulation in 2025 just keeps getting better. Flycast has had so many improvements, and DCNet has been one of the biggest I've seen to Dreamcast emulation in years. The ability to hop online and play a quick online match without having to deal with any of the configuration options just makes it that much more fun, because in 2025 again, we don't have all the time in the world to fiddle around with online settings for an hour just to get a 10-minute match in. If you're like me, you've got a ton of stuff to do in a day, and if you want to play something online, you don't want to wait around to actually try to configure all the connections and other port forwarding to be able to actually sit down and play the game. And that's exactly what DCNet solves. It takes out all the difficulty of trying to get online, and it just leaves you with the fun of playing some of your favorite Dreamcast games online with friends without struggling with all of the different connection issues. But again, leave me a comment down below. I would be curious to hear, did you play OutRIGGER back in the day, or if you've never played it before? And trust me, if you've never checked this game out, I can't stress enough, it's definitely something you should play. And now with the improvements in DCNet adding new games into the mix for Flycast, it's something that you're going to be able to play incredibly easy. But short of that, we're done. I'm going to keep on the good fight here, or my moderator, the Cool Pup, is, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.